In 525 BC, the most powerful army on earth marched into the Egyptian desert and was never seen again. No bodies, no weapons, nothing. For over 2,000 years, people have been asking the same question. What really happened to the lost army of Cambyses? But here's what makes this story even more disturbing. The man who sent them to die never even bothered to look for them. Meet Cambyses II, king of the Persian Empire. This wasn't just any ruler. He controlled the largest empire the world had ever seen, but power made him paranoid. After conquering Egypt, Cambyses learned about a sacred place deep in the desert called the Oracle of Amun. This wasn't just a temple, it was where people traveled thousands of miles to hear predictions about the future, and that terrified him. Cambyses believed the priests there were plotting against his rule, so he made a decision that would haunt history forever. He ordered 50,000 of his best soldiers to march 500 miles across the desert. Their mission was simple: destroy the oracle and kill everyone there. But there was one problem. Nobody had ever successfully crossed that desert with an army that large. Picture this: 50,000 men walking into hell. The desert sun was so hot it could kill a man in hours without water. The soldiers carried everything on their backs: weapons, armor, food supplies for weeks. But Cambyses didn't care about the risks. He wanted that oracle destroyed, and he wanted it done fast. So the army left Thebes and began their death march across 500 miles of burning sand. For days they pushed forward. Their water supplies ran low. Men started collapsing from heat exhaustion. But they kept marching, because failure meant execution. And then, something happened that nobody expected. According to the Greek historian Herodotus, the soldiers had set up camp for the night when the sky turned black. A massive sandstorm was racing toward them like a wall of death. The wind hit first. It was so loud the men couldn't hear their own screams. Sand filled their mouths, their eyes, their lungs. But this wasn't just any storm. This was nature unleashing its full fury on an army that had no escape. Soldiers were literally buried alive where they stood. Tents were ripped apart. Horses went crazy with fear. And when the storm finally passed, the desert was silent. 50,000 Persian warriors had vanished without a trace. Here's where the story gets even darker. When Cambyses learned his entire army had disappeared, he didn't send search parties. He didn't organize rescue missions. He just moved on, because admitting that 50,000 soldiers died for nothing would make him look weak, so he covered it up. The lost army became a secret that was buried deeper than the soldiers themselves. But was it really a sandstorm that killed them? Some historians think the army was ambushed by Egyptian rebels who knew the desert better than any Persian ever could. They could have picked off the soldiers group by group. Others believe poor planning destroyed them. Marching 50,000 men across 500 miles of desert without proper supplies is basically suicide. And then there's the archaeology mystery. In 2009, Italian researchers claimed they found bronze weapons and human remains near where the army disappeared. "We found Cambyses' lost soldiers," they announced to the world. But Egypt's archaeology authority called it fake. They said the researchers were lying for attention. Today, 2,500 years later, we still don't know what happened. The desert keeps its secrets well. Sometimes shifting sand reveals ancient bones or rusted weapons, only to bury them again the next day. But here's what we know for certain. One paranoid king's fear sent 50,000 men to their deaths, and none of them ever made it home. Was it nature's revenge, enemy ambush, or just the deadliest military disaster in ancient history? Until the desert gives up its dead, the lost army of Cambyses remains one of history's most haunting mysteries, because sometimes the most powerful armies in the world can simply vanish into thin air.